The lunar ring left Evelyn's finger with a soft metallic scrape. Adrian did not look at her as he placed the blackened silver band on the ceremonial tray. Across the great hall, 300 wolves watched Serena Hale rise from the widow's chair and extend her hand beneath the candles. Evelyn stood beside Marcus Hale's blood-stained cloak, still holding the small velvet box she had meant to give Adrian after the memorial. Inside rested 2 gray wool booties, one finished and one missing its final row. 10 weeks of secret hope pressed against her lower belly beneath mourning silk quietly. Elder Gideon Voss raised a folded campaign map sealed with royal wax. General Hale died because someone sold his root, he announced. Her fingerprints were found on the copy. A guard spread the parchment across the stone table. Evelyn recognized the paper, but not the ink or the route marked. Adrian's face remained carved from ice. Evelyn Hart, you betrayed Mooncrest and sent my general to his death. His voice carried the Alpha command, strong enough to bend weaker wolves. Evelyn felt the pressure strike her bones, then the sharper pull of the child beneath her heart. She stayed upright. She looked at Marcus's empty place, then at Serena wearing the pearl mourning gown Evelyn herself had chosen for her 3 nights earlier. Serena's lashes trembled, but triumph flickered beneath them. Evelyn saw it. Adrian saw it too. He still reached for the lunar ring, without asking one question more. Do you reject the charge? Caleb Mercer asked from the lower dais. His jaw was tight enough to show he hated the question. Evelyn met Adrian's eyes. I reject your evidence. That was not the question, Adrian said. It was the only answer you were entitled to receive from me. Adrian descended the steps and stopped before her. His fingers closed around her left hand. The mate bond surged in protest, heat tearing through Evelyn's ribs. For one breath, his thumb paused over her pulse. He knew how faithfully she had served him. Then he twisted the ring free anyway. The crown cannot shelter treason, he said. I reject you as my mate and strip you of Luna rank. Pain opened inside Evelyn like a blade drawn slowly between her ribs. Her wolf staggered. Adrian's expression did not change. Serena approached with one pale hand already waiting for the ring. Adrian placed it on Serena's finger. The moonstone stayed dark. Cold laughter moved through several counselors, while soldiers loyal to Marcus stared at the floor. Serena touched the ring to her chest. I will honor his sacrifice. Evelyn watched her mouth shape the lie and remembered holding that woman yesterday. She could have told them about the child. She could have forced Adrian to stop the ceremony under heir law. Instead, she pictured council hands closing around her womb, Adrian's guards outside a locked chamber, and Serena smiling beside an empty cradle. Evelyn lowered her palm before anyone noticed it. Gideon pushed a severance notice toward her. Sign, confess, and the council may spare your life. Evelyn accepted the quill. Blood from the bond pain had reached her tongue. She swallowed it and wrote beneath the accusation in clean, deliberate letters, I do not confess. Then she signed her name. As she turned, the velvet box slipped from beneath her cloak and struck the carpet. The lid opened behind a funeral curtain, revealing the tiny gray booties. Miriam Cole, the royal healer, saw them first. She caught Evelyn's gaze and quietly moved the curtain closed before Adrian could turn around. Evelyn crossed the hall while the pack parted around her. No one reached out. At the bronze doors, rejection fever buckled her knees, but she gripped the handle and remained standing. Behind her, Serena took Evelyn's throne. Ahead waited darkness, snow, and a border Adrian believed she could never cross. Evelyn reached the royal wing before the pain forced sound from her. The corridor was empty, its tall windows reflecting a woman in black silk walking with one hand pressed beneath her ribs. She kept her pace steady until the bedroom doors closed behind her. Then the mate bond twisted again. Her knees struck the carpet. A bitter taste flooded her mouth. She covered it with her palm, but a thin line of blood slipped between her fingers and spotted the sleeve Adrian had fastened for her that morning. Across the room, his scent still clung to the bed, cedar, smoke, and the cold metallic edge of power. Her wolf pulled toward it on instinct, begging her to crawl closer to the man who had just rejected them. No, Evelyn whispered. She pushed herself upright using the bedpost. The jewels in her dressing room could have purchased a village. She left them untouched. She ignored the ceremonial gowns, the fur-lined cloaks, and the silver hairpins marked with the blackwood crest. None of them belonged to her now. Perhaps they never had. At the back of the wardrobe, she pressed a carved rose into the wooden panel. A hidden door opened with a quiet click. The unfinished nursery waited behind it. Moonlight fell across a narrow cradle, folded blankets, and a shelf holding 3 storybooks Evelyn had collected without telling anyone. She had planned to show Adrian the room after the memorial. She had imagined him standing awkwardly beside the cradle, trying not to smile too broadly. That imagined man had never existed. Evelyn crossed to a small basket and found the missing gray booty. Her hands shook as she folded it beside the finished one. For the first time that night, tears burned her eyes. She allowed one to fall. Only one. Then she placed the booties in her travel bag beside her identity papers, dried herbs, 2 plain dresses, and the emergency coins she kept for widows who needed to disappear from violent mates. The irony nearly made her laugh. Another spasm struck before the sound could escape. Evelyn caught the cradle's rail, breathing through her teeth as heat tore downward through her abdomen. The hidden door opened behind her. Healer Miriam Cole stepped inside carrying a brown leather case. At 57, Miriam had delivered nearly every high-ranking child born in Mooncrest, including Adrian himself. Tonight her gray hair had come loose from its pins, and fear sharpened the lines around her mouth. "You're bleeding. It's the bond. I'll decide that." Miriam locked the panel and guided Evelyn onto a narrow couch. She placed a warmed healer stone below Evelyn's navel. Pale blue light spread beneath her palm. Both women held their breath. A faint rhythm answered. Small, rapid, alive. Evelyn shut her eyes. Her fingers curled around the edge of the cushion until the leather creaked. "The baby is holding," Miriam said quietly. "But you cannot endure repeated shocks like this. Your fever will rise before dawn." "What can I take?" "Very little. Most rejection tonics cross the blood barrier. Then I take nothing." Miriam looked up sharply. "You take what I give you, or neither of you reaches morning." She mixed willow bark, moon mint, and a measured drop of wolfsbane neutralizer. Evelyn drank without complaint, though the brew tasted like burnt roots. Footsteps sounded in the outer chamber. Miriam extinguished the healer stone. 2 royal guards entered without knocking. One carried a sealed council notice. "By order of Elder Voss," he said. "All medical files belonging to Evelyn Hart are to be surrendered for review." Miriam's face became professionally blank. "She has rejection fever. That is the entire record. We were told there may be another condition." Evelyn watched the guard's eyes move toward her abdomen. Serena knew, or suspected. Miriam crossed to her writing desk and opened the official ledger. With the guard standing 3 feet away, she tore out Evelyn's original examination page, folded it beneath her sleeve, and replaced it with a blank form. "Severe bond trauma," she dictated. "Vomiting, internal bleeding, unstable wolf response. No additional findings." The guard pressed the royal seal onto the false entry. When they left, Miriam exhaled for the first time. "They will keep searching. Then I won't be here." A cold voice answered from the bedroom doorway. "You are not going anywhere." Adrian stood beneath the carved arch, still dressed in ceremonial black. Marcus's mourning pin remained fastened at his throat. He dismissed Miriam with a glance. She did not move. Evelyn touched her arm. "Go." Miriam obeyed slowly, leaving the hidden nursery panel open behind her. Adrian saw the cradle. His expression shifted, but only for a second. "What is this?" "A room you no longer have the right to enter." He looked at her travel bag. "You're feverish, angry. By morning, you will think clearly." "I am thinking clearly now. Serena needs the title to hold Marcus's officers together. His family commands 1/3 of the army. So you gave her my ring." "I gave Mooncrest stability." Evelyn studied the man she had loved for 7 years. "Did you know I was innocent when you took it?" Adrian's jaw tightened. He could have lied. He did not. Outside, a clock struck midnight. Evelyn nodded once. "Thank you." His brow furrowed. "For what?" "For making certain I never mistake you for a good man again." She lifted her bag, but 3 more guards appeared behind him. One unrolled a council decree across the doorway. Evelyn Hart was forbidden to leave Blackthorn Keep pending trial. Adrian expected panic. Instead, Evelyn glanced toward Miriam's abandoned medical case. Beneath it, lay a small iron key, and beyond the nursery wall, the healer's tunnel had not been opened in 40 years. The iron key disappeared beneath Evelyn's palm, just as Adrian stepped farther into the nursery. "Put down the bag," he ordered. The Alpha command rolled through the room, pressing against her spine. The damaged mate bond tried to obey, but pain had weakened the path between them. Evelyn let her travel bag slide from her shoulder, hiding the key inside her sleeve. Adrian mistook the movement for surrender. "Good," he said. "Miriam will treat the fever. When you are calm, we will discuss suitable quarters." Suitable for a prisoner, for someone awaiting trial. Evelyn glanced past him. 3 guards blocked the bedroom entrance. The youngest avoided looking at her blood-stained sleeve. The other 2 kept their hands near their weapons. Adrian had prepared them to restrain his rejected mate. He had not prepared them for the palace she had managed for 7 years. A brass alarm bell rang from the western courtyard. Once, twice, then a guard shouted that smoke had been seen near the royal archives. Miriam's work, Evelyn realized. Adrian turned toward the corridor. "Secure this room." The guards shifted their attention for one fatal second. Evelyn seized the healer's case and hurled it into the oil lamp. Glass shattered. Flame raced across spilled alcohol, climbing the curtain in a bright orange sheet. The youngest guard lunged toward the fire. Evelyn kicked the nursery door shut and drove Miriam's iron key into a narrow slot beneath the cradle. Stone groaned behind the wall. Adrian spun back. "Evelyn." She dragged her bag through the opening. His fingers caught the edge of her cloak, tearing the black fabric from her shoulders, but the stone panel dropped between them. His roar followed her into darkness. The healer's tunnel smelled of wet limestone and old herbs. Evelyn descended narrow steps, one hand against the wall, and the other protecting her abdomen. Behind her, Adrian's guards struck the sealed panel with axes. She had minutes, perhaps less. The passage divided beneath the eastern tower. Evelyn chose the lower route, remembering an old maintenance ledger that mentioned drainage channels beneath the kitchens. Cold water covered her boots. Rats scattered ahead of her. Another bond spasm struck without warning. She fell against the wall, breath trapped behind clenched teeth. Heat tore across her ribs, followed by a deep cramp low in her belly. Her wolf whimpered, reaching backward toward Adrian's fury. Evelyn pressed both hands over the child. "Stay with me," she whispered. "I am not losing you for him." The cramp eased. She continued. The tunnel ended behind an iron grate outside the herb gardens. Rain hammered the palace grounds, flattening the winter plants and washing smoke across the courtyard. Miriam waited beside a supply cart, her gray hair hidden beneath a servant's hood. "You set the archive fire?" "A wastebasket," Miriam said. "I am a healer, not an arsonist." Despite everything, Evelyn nearly smiled. Miriam handed her a pouch of crushed sage, pine resin, and bitterroot. "Rub it beneath your jaw, wrists, and boots. It will confuse trackers for several hours. You could be executed for this. I delivered Adrian into this world. I am permitted one professional regret." The western gates opened for the supply cart. Miriam remained behind while Evelyn lay beneath sacks of medicinal bark, listening to guards curse the storm. At the outer road, she slipped from the cart and entered the forest alone. By dawn, Blackthorn Keep had vanished behind the rain. Evelyn followed no established trail. She crossed streams, walked along fallen trunks, and doubled back across stone whenever the ground softened. The border patrol schedule lived in her memory because she had written it after 3 children disappeared near the southern road. Adrian's trackers would expect her to flee north toward human territory. She moved east. Near midday, baying hounds rose behind her. Evelyn crouched beside a swollen creek and opened Miriam's scent pouch. She rubbed the remaining mixture onto a broken branch, tied a strip of her torn cloak around it, and sent it spinning downstream. Then she climbed upstream through freezing water. The hounds followed the cloth. Their handlers did not. One tracker separated from the group and moved toward the rocky ridge above her. Evelyn recognized his gait before she saw his face. Jared Pike, Adrian's best border hunter. She pressed herself beneath the exposed roots of an oak, while Jared studied the creek. Rainwater ran over her lips. Her muscles shook from cold and rejection fever. Jared stopped 10 feet away. His wolf surfaced in his eyes. For a moment, Evelyn believed he had found her. Then a horn sounded downstream. Jared turned and followed the false trail. She waited until the forest grew quiet before crawling free. By sunset, the boundary stones of Mooncrest appeared through the mist. Beyond them lay neutral ravine, where no royal law offered protection. A ruined hunting cabin stood near the last marker. Light moved behind its cracked window. Evelyn drew a small knife and entered. A broad man rose beside the hearth, his left hand already resting on his sword. A faded military scar crossed his jaw. Captain Elias Grant had served beneath Marcus for 12 years. "You should not be here," Evelyn said. "Neither should you. Did Adrian send you?" Elias's expression tightened. He lowered himself onto one knee. From inside his coat, he removed a moonstone signet darkened with dried blood. "General Hale gave me one final order," he said. "Find the Luna, keep her alive, take her to the only king Adrian Blackwood fears." He placed the signet and a sealed letter in Evelyn's hand. The letter bore Rowan Ashford's name. On the back, written in Marcus's blood, were 6 words. "Trust the king Adrian, cannot control." Neutral ravine began where Mooncrest's boundary stones ended, a jagged corridor of black rock, dead pines, and wind sharp enough to scrape skin. Evelyn stood beside Elias, beneath the ruined cabin's eaves, studying the storm, while Marcus's blood-darkened signet pressed cold against her palm, like accusation she could not dismiss. Elias spread a weather-stained map across a crate. "The lower pass is faster," he said, "but exposed." His injured commander's instincts still shaped every word, though grief had hollowed his face. Evelyn traced the ridgeline. "The upper path hides us, but gives the assassins better ground if they are waiting." She chose neither route. Instead, she pointed toward an abandoned aqueduct etched into the cliff. Its channels had once carried spring water to border farms. Now they offered cover, narrow footing, and one advantage Adrian's men would overlook. Evelyn had approved the restoration survey herself 3 winters earlier in council. They entered the stone channel before dawn. Frost glazed the floor, forcing them to move sideways along the wall. Elias carried a short sword in his right hand and favored his left shoulder. Evelyn noticed, said nothing, and adjusted their pace without making the wounded soldier feel watched or pitied openly. Halfway through the ravine, she stopped. Silver ash dusted the stone ahead in a thin gray fan. Rain should have washed it away. Someone had scattered it after the storm began. Elias crouched beside her. "Royal hunters?" Evelyn shook her head. "Hunters leave scent. These men erased theirs on purpose." A pebble clicked above them. Evelyn shoved Elias backward as a silver blade struck where his throat had been. 3 masked wolves dropped from the ridge, boots finding the aqueduct with trained precision. A 4th remained overhead with a crossbow. No insignia marked them, and no pack scent followed either. Elias met the first attacker with steel. Evelyn ducked the crossbow bolt, seized a rusted maintenance lever, and pulled. Nothing moved. She planted both feet and dragged again. Somewhere inside the cliff, old gears screamed. Above them, a suspended stone trough broke free and swung downward through the narrow passage. 2 assassins vanished over the edge with barely a cry. The 3rd slashed Elias across the shoulder, opening the old wound beneath his coat. He dropped to one knee. Evelyn drove her knife into the attacker's thigh, twisted, then kicked him into the rushing water below them without looking down. The crossbowman fled along the ridge. Elias tried to follow, but his sword slipped from numb fingers. Blood spread beneath his sleeve, dark and fast. Evelyn caught him before he fell. "Leave me," he said. "Take the signet." She tightened his arm around her shoulders. "Marcus trusted you. Move now." They reached an abandoned checkpoint as snow began to fall. Inside, Evelyn barred the door, cut Elias's coat, and found silver residue burning around the wound. Her hands trembled from cold and bond fever, but her voice stayed level. "This will hurt." Elias managed to smile. "Most honest warning tonight." She heated her knife, opened the wound, and scraped out the silver. Elias bit down on a leather strap while she packed the cut with crushed yarrow and clean cloth. A cramp tightened low in her abdomen. She paused only long enough to breathe before finishing the bandage around him. Elias saw her palm cover her stomach. His face changed. "You are carrying the air." Evelyn's gaze hardened. "You saw nothing. Adrian sent killers after his pregnant mate. Adrian does not know." Elias looked toward the door as boots crunched outside. Then someone near Serena does, and they came prepared. The door shook beneath a heavy blow. Evelyn extinguished the lamp and dragged Elias behind the counter. Through a crack in the boards, she saw disciplined fighters in dark winter armor surrounding the checkpoint. Their formation was military, but unfamiliar. One carried Stormhold's iron hawk on his cloak in silver. "Open in King Rowan's name," a woman called. Elias sagged with relief. Evelyn did not. She pressed Marcus's signet into her sleeve and raised her knife. The Stormhold soldiers broke the door, weapons lifted, then halted at the sight of a bleeding captain and a pregnant woman guarding him alone. Their commander lowered her sword but did not offer help. She searched Evelyn's face, then the blood, the bandage, and the signet partly visible beneath her cuff. Outside, another soldier picked up a fallen assassin's coin. Mooncrest's Royal Intelligence crest gleamed beneath the mud. "The king will question you himself." Ashford's citadel rose from the mountain like a blade driven into black stone. Its gates opened without ceremony, swallowing Evelyn, Elias, and the Stormhold soldiers beneath iron arches rimmed with frost. No one called her Luna. No one offered comfort. She preferred the honesty. Elias was taken toward the healer wing while Evelyn was escorted upstairs by 6 armed wolves. The ache behind her ribs had settled into a steady burn. Her wet clothes clung to her skin, and Marcus's signet pressed against her wrist beneath the torn sleeve. The soldiers brought her into a circular war chamber. Maps covered every wall. Border stones, supply roads, healer stations, and military routes had been marked with colored pins. At the center stood a broad table carved from dark granite. Rowan Ashford waited behind it. He was taller than Evelyn expected, dressed in a plain charcoal coat without a crown or ceremonial medals. Silver threaded the dark hair near his temples. A thin scar crossed his right hand where it rested beside an unopened letter bearing Marcus Hale's blood-stained seal. His gray eyes moved over Evelyn once, not admiring, assessing. "Evelyn Hart," he said. "Accused traitor, rejected Luna, uninvited carrier of a dead general's message." "Rowan Ashford," she answered. "King. Rival. Apparently fond of unpleasant introductions." One corner of his mouth shifted, though his expression remained guarded. He gestured toward 3 campaign maps spread across the table. "One of these is the route General Hale approved. One was altered after he signed it. The third was created to support the accusation against you." Evelyn did not touch them immediately. "You have Marcus's report. I have half, and you expect me to earn the other half. I expect you to prove Adrian did not send you here carrying a convincing lie." The room fell quiet except for the low snap of blue fire in the hearth. Evelyn studied the first map. The northern route cut through steep ground, but maintained access to 2 healer stations. The second crossed a frozen river beyond the range of the army's supply wagons. The third looked almost identical to the second, except the ink around the eastern ridge had bled slightly into the parchment fibers. She placed one finger beside the river crossing. This route was altered. Rowan's gaze sharpened. "Why?" Marcus never moved wounded soldiers farther than 12 miles from a healer station during winter campaigns. This road leaves them 28 miles without shelter. She shifted to the third map. "This is the forgery used against me. The route marks were copied after the royal seal was pressed. The wax ridge overlaps the ink here, but not here." Rowan leaned closer. Evelyn pointed to a small black square near the mountain pass. "And this supply depot did not exist when Marcus left Blackthorn Keep. I approved its construction 6 days later." One of Rowan's advisors whispered beneath his breath. Rowan silenced him with a glance. "Open the archive," the king ordered. A guard unlocked a steel cabinet built into the wall. Rowan removed a narrow leather file and laid it before Evelyn. Inside was a single page in Marcus's handwriting. "If I do not return, Adrian has chosen the crown over every oath we swore." The lines below had been cut away. Evelyn's fingers tightened against the table. "Where is the rest?" "Sealed beneath bloodline witness law," Rowan said. Marcus feared the report would be stolen. "The final memory requires the presence of someone carrying royal Blackwood blood, or someone bound to the accused king by a living mate bond." Evelyn looked up. Rowan already knew what her presence could unlock. He had not known why. The chamber tilted beneath her feet. She caught the table, but a sharp cramp folded through her abdomen. Rowan moved around the stone before she fell, stopping short of touching her. "May I?" The question reached her through the haze. Evelyn nodded once. He caught her elbow and called for a healer. She woke in a smaller room smelling of cedar bark and heated linen. A woman in Stormhold gray held a glowing stone above Evelyn's stomach, while Rowan stood near the window, his back turned, to give the examination privacy. The healer's expression softened. The child is alive. The heartbeat is strong, but the mother is exhausted. Rowan turned slowly. His eyes met Evelyn's, then dropped toward the pale light beneath the blanket. Does Adrian know? No. Do you want him told? Evelyn had expected strategy, demands, or a declaration that royal blood belonged to its father. She had not expected permission. No, she said. Not until I understand who helped him kill Marcus. Rowan nodded. Then Stormhold will keep your silence. Outside the half-closed door, a shadow moved away too quickly. Neither of them saw it. An hour later, warning bells rang from the western gate. A royal messenger had arrived beneath Mooncrest colors, carrying a sealed demand for Evelyn's immediate return. Rowan broke Adrian's black wax and read the order once. His face became dangerously still. He handed the parchment to Evelyn. The document did not call her Adrian's mate, his former Luna, or even a citizen of Mooncrest. It described her as stolen royal property, carrying an unlawfully removed heir. Evelyn finished reading and folded the decree with careful hands. Rowan's voice lowered. He is not asking for your return. No, she said. He is demanding possession. Beyond the chamber doors, Mooncrest's envoy struck the floor with his staff and called for judgment before sunset. And for the first time, another king stood between Adrian Blackwood and the child he had already treated like a weapon. The hearing chamber at Ashford Citadel had no throne. Rowan sat behind a plain iron table, level with every witness summoned before him. Evelyn stood to his left beneath Stormhold's silver hawk banner. She wore borrowed gray wool, not royal silk, and Marcus's moonstone signet rested inside her closed hand. Across the chamber, Mooncrest's envoy unrolled Adrian's extradition order. Evelyn Hart is charged with treason, theft of military intelligence, and unlawful flight from royal custody, he declared. The unborn Blackwood heir must be returned to its rightful sovereign. The child moved too faintly for Evelyn to feel, but her palm still covered her abdomen. Say that again, she said. The envoy frowned. Which charge? The part where you called my child something to be returned. Murmurs moved through the observers. Rowan remained silent. The envoy lifted his chin. Royal heirs belong to the bloodline and crown. Children belong to no crown. You surrendered that argument when you fled Mooncrest. I fled after your king knowingly used false evidence to strip my title. His intelligence officers pursued me into Neutral Ravine. Their assassins nearly killed Captain Elias Grant. The envoy glanced toward Elias, who sat near the healer's entrance with his injured shoulder bound beneath a dark uniform. An unsupported allegation. Evelyn placed the silver coin recovered from the dead assassin on the table. Mooncrest's Royal Intelligence crest flashed beneath the chamber lights. Then explain why a man without pack scent died carrying Owen Cross's mark. The envoy's confidence faltered. Rowan finally spoke. Did Adrian authorize this demand knowing Evelyn carries his child? Yes, Your Majesty. And does he offer her sanctuary pending trial? She is a prisoner. Medical protection? She will receive what the Crown considers necessary. Independent counsel? She requires none. She is still bound to her Alpha. The damaged mate bond tightened around Evelyn's ribs, as if Adrian had heard the words from hundreds of miles away. Rowan's gray eyes turned colder. A bond is not ownership. The envoy struck his staff against the floor. Stormhold has no right to interfere with Blackwood's succession. Stormhold has every right when a sovereign invokes neutral protection law. Rowan opened an old iron-bound book. Its pages were yellowed, the language written in both modern script and ancient wolf marks. Under the Guardian Law, a royal child may be placed beneath another sovereign's protection when the blood father has endangered the mother, denied her lawful hearing, or treated the heir as political property. The envoy's face drained of color. That law has not been used in 200 years. It was not repealed. Rowan looked at Evelyn. If invoked, the child will be recorded as my protected heir until you withdraw the claim or a neutral trial restores safe custody. Mooncrest will have no legal right to seize you. Any armed attempt to do so will be treated as an attack upon Stormhold. And the price? Evelyn asked. Possibly war. The chamber became still. Rowan continued, his voice quieter. The claim does not bind you to me. It grants me no authority over your body, residence, or future. You may end it whenever you choose. Evelyn studied him. Adrian had made every decision first and explained it afterward. Rowan placed the danger in front of her and waited. She turned toward the envoy. Tell Adrian I heard every word in his order. Then return before this becomes rebellion. No. The word landed without anger. Evelyn placed Marcus's signet beside the intelligence coin. I consent to guardian protection until the murder of General Hale and the charges against me are tried before a neutral council. The envoy stepped forward. Stormhold guards immediately blocked him. You cannot give away the Blackwood heir. Evelyn faced him fully. I am not giving my child away. I am keeping my child alive. Rowan drew a ceremonial blade across his palm. Blood welled dark against his skin. An elder placed a sheet of white guardian parchment before him, and the king pressed his hand onto it. The ancient marks ignited silver. By my blood, my crown, and the borders sworn to my name, Rowan said. The child carried by Evelyn Hart stands beneath Stormhold law. He looked at Evelyn before speaking the final vow. Until his mother says otherwise, this child stands beneath my name, my shield, and my protection. The bells of Ashford Citadel rang once. Across the chamber, 7 oath mirrors flared to life, sending the declaration to every pack council on the continent. Far away in Blackthorn Keep, Adrian heard Rowan's voice emerge from the council mirror. The glass in his hand shattered. Blood ran over his fingers as the final words repeated through the hall. Protected heir of King Rowan Ashford. Serena stood beside him wearing the dark Luna ring. For the first time, Adrian looked at it as though it had cost him more than a kingdom. Another king had not stolen his child. Adrian had driven them both into that king's protection. The first riot began outside Blackthorn Keep before sunrise. Widows and wounded soldiers crowded the eastern gate, holding unpaid ration vouchers above their heads, while guards struggled to keep the iron bars closed. The monthly relief wagons had not arrived. Neither had winter medicine for the border villages. For 7 years, Evelyn had signed every release herself. Serena watched from an upper balcony, the Luna ring dark against her clenched fingers. They can wait, she said. The treasury has more urgent obligations. Beta Caleb Mercer stood behind her. Their children are hungry, and shouting at the palace will feed them? They are shouting because no one answered their petitions. Serena turned, her mourning veil arranged perfectly over one shoulder. Then teach them patience. Below, a woman slammed her fist against the gate and called Evelyn's name. Others joined her. The sound rolled across the courtyard until even the palace windows seemed to tremble. Adrian entered without announcing himself. A fresh bandage covered the hand he had cut on the shattered glass after Rowan's oath reached Mooncrest. Disperse them, he ordered. Caleb did not move. With soldiers? With authority. Evelyn used food. Adrian's eyes flashed gold. Evelyn is gone. The crowd below answered with her name again. Adrian left the balcony before anyone could see the effect it had on him. He went to Evelyn's old office, a narrow room beside the royal archives he had rarely entered while she occupied it. He had assumed the kingdom's daily work happened through committees, clerks, and obedient servants. Instead, every shelf carried her handwriting. Grain reserves by village, medicine routes adjusted for snowfall, names of injured soldiers whose families needed extra firewood. Private notes beside several widows' accounts read, "Husband missing. Do not suspend payment." Adrian opened a black ledger and found 3 alternative supply routes drawn in Evelyn's precise hand. One had been marked for emergency use if the eastern bridge failed. The bridge had collapsed 4 days ago. No one had known what to do. His chest tightened as the damaged bond reached across the distance, searching for her. For a heartbeat, he felt exhaustion that was not his own, followed by the faintest protective warmth surrounding another life. His child, Rowan's protected heir. Adrian slammed the ledger shut. A small velvet box sat behind a stack of unsigned decrees. He opened it and found a length of gray yarn, a wooden needle, and a scrap of paper bearing measurements for newborn feet. The missing booties had left shallow impressions in the lining. He sat in Evelyn's chair without meaning to. She had known. She had stood before him carrying his child while he removed her ring and called her a traitor. Caleb entered carrying the forged campaign map. We examined the ink. Adrian closed the box. And the markings came from Royal Intelligence stock. The formula contains iron root resin. Only Owen Cross's office uses it. Owen was ordered to report this morning. He emptied his residence during the night. Adrian rose. Seal the roads. They were sealed after Evelyn escaped. The reminder landed harder than Caleb intended. Adrian crossed to the window. Are you accusing me? I am telling you the evidence against her was manufactured inside your own intelligence service. I saw her fingerprints. Prints can be transferred. Adrian knew that. Evelyn had explained the method during a counter-espionage hearing 2 years earlier. He had remembered it during the memorial. He had chosen not to speak. The office door opened. Serena entered without permission, wearing Evelyn's ceremonial black coat over her gown. The sleeves were too long, and the moonstone ring remained dull on her hand. You should address the gate, Adrian said. I will not beg common soldiers to respect their Luna. You are not crowned yet. Her expression sharpened. Careful. Caleb quietly withdrew. Serena closed the door behind him and removed a folded letter from her bodice. Adrian recognized his own seal before she opened it. A private promise written 3 weeks before Marcus died. If he does not return, the Luna throne will be yours. You kept that, Adrian said. I keep insurance. You were supposed to destroy it. You were supposed to make me queen without allowing your rejected wife to become the protected mother of another king's heir. Adrian stepped closer. Do not speak of my child. Serena smiled, but fear lived beneath it. If I fall, this letter reaches every member of the council. They will know you planned Evelyn's replacement before Marcus entered the ravine. A knock interrupted them. Caleb returned, pale beneath his beard. The Hale family crypt has been opened. Adrian's face went still. Why? Captain Grant challenged the battlefield report before he fled. The healers examined Marcus's body. Serena gripped the Luna ring. Caleb looked directly at Adrian. They found silver lodged behind his neck. He was not killed during the ambush. The shouting outside faded beneath the pounding of Adrian's heart. Marcus had survived the battlefield. Someone had executed him afterward, and the dead general's body had just become the first witness Adrian could not command into silence. Marcus Hale's body lay beneath white linen in the crypt laboratory, the silver fragment resting inside a glass dish beside his head. The battlefield report claimed a blade had entered through his chest. The wound behind his neck told a different story. Someone had held him still, placed silver against the base of his skull, and ended his life after the fighting stopped. Elias stood beside the examination table, his injured shoulder strapped tightly beneath his uniform. Evelyn remained near the far wall, one hand around Marcus's moonstone signet. He survived the ambush, the Stormhold healer said, for several hours, perhaps longer. Evelyn looked at the bruising around Marcus's wrists. He was questioned, or forced to sign something, Rowan said. The crypt smelled of cold stone, preservative herbs, and earth disturbed before its time. Rowan placed the signet in the center of an oath circle carved into the floor. Marcus had designed the lock himself. One witness bound to Adrian and one soldier sworn to Marcus were required to open it. Elias cut his palm first. Evelyn followed. The moment their blood touched the moonstone, silver light climbed the walls. Marcus appeared above the circle as a translucent figure wearing his campaign armor. Blood darkened one side of his face. Across from him stood Adrian inside the king's private office. You have been sleeping with my wife, Marcus said. No one in the crypt moved. Adrian's recorded image poured himself a drink. Lower your voice. I found the rooms, the payments, her letters. You found what you were never meant to see. Marcus stepped closer. I served you for 15 years, and I gave you rank, land, and a name your father never earned. You gave me nothing I did not bleed for. The oath memory flickered. Serena appeared briefly near the office door, pale and silent. She would later claim she had never known Marcus discovered them. The memory proved otherwise. Marcus looked directly at her. You could have left me. Serena's lips parted, but Adrian answered for her. She chose me. The image shifted to a military chamber 3 days later. Adrian stood over a map with Owen Cross, commander of Royal Intelligence. Marcus's route had already been marked through neutral ravine. Owen tapped the narrow pass. His escort may survive. Adrian pressed his seal into the order. He cannot return with what he knows. The words remained suspended inside the crypt after the memory faded. Evelyn gripped the edge of a stone table. Her knees threatened to fold, but she remained standing. Marcus had marched into the ravine knowing the man beside him wanted him dead. Rowan did not touch her. He simply moved close enough that she would not fall alone. A final image emerged. Marcus sat bound inside a field tent, his breathing shallow. He looked toward whoever carried the memory stone. "My child is innocent," he said. "Whatever Serena has done, do not let the council punish the baby for it." The light died. Across the border, Serena walked barefoot through the private passage behind Blackthorn Keep's council chamber. Adrian had locked her rooms after Marcus's body was opened, but he had forgotten she knew the old servant's roots. Voices carried through the wall. "The coronation proceeds," Gideon Voss said. "And after?" another elder asked. "The child will remain under council guardianship." Serena stopped breathing. "What of the mother?" "Once she gives birth, she has no further political value. The northern convent will accept her." A chair scraped. "And Adrian? If he survives the trial, he will rule beneath our supervision. If not, the Hale child gives us a useful symbol." Serena pressed both hands over her stomach. She had believed the crown would make her untouchable. Instead, Gideon intended to take Marcus's army, Marcus's child, and the last useful part of her life. She returned to her chamber and opened the locked drawer beneath her dressing table. Inside lay Adrian's written promise, copies of Owen's payments, and a sealed bloodline report she had stolen from the royal healer. The conclusion was clear. Her unborn child belonged to Marcus Hale, not Adrian Blackwood. Serena sat before the mirror, staring at the dark Luna ring on her finger. She had betrayed Marcus for a throne that had never intended to keep her alive. For several minutes, she wept. Then she stopped. Serena wrote 2 identical notes. One was sent through Adrian's personal servant. The other traveled beneath a healer's seal toward Stormhold. Before dawn, Evelyn received the message in Rowan's war chamber. "Save me, and I will name the man who ordered Marcus's death." Rowan read over her shoulder. "She expects mercy." "No," Evelyn said. "She expects a bidding war." At Blackthorn Keep, Adrian unfolded the same message and saw the final line Serena had added, only for him. "Crown me tomorrow, or Evelyn receives everything." The coronation bells began rehearsing in the courtyard. By sunrise, Serena Hale would either become Luna or destroy every person who had helped her steal the ring. Coronation bells shook Blackthorn Keep before sunrise, each strike rolling across the courtyard where Marcus Hale's soldiers stood in rigid rows. Inside the great hall, Serena waited beneath the silver arch in Evelyn's black ceremonial gown, the Luna ring dull on her finger, and Adrian's promise hidden against her ribs. Gideon Voss lifted the blood-packed paper. "Place your hand upon the oath." Serena obeyed. The moment her skin touched the parchment, the moonstone flashed white, then burned black. She gasped and tried to pull away, but the ring tightened until smoke curled from her knuckle. Before Gideon could cover it, the bronze doors opened. Rowan Ashford entered with Stormhold's legal guard, Elias Grant, 2 neutral healers, and Evelyn between them. She wore no crown, no jewels, and no color claimed by Mooncrest. A gray advocate's cloak rested over her shoulders, Marcus's signet visible at her throat. Adrian rose from the throne. "You have no authority here." Rowan stopped below the dais. "Guardian law grants the protected mother one public hearing before any succession oath." Evelyn looked past Adrian to Serena's blistered hand. "Continue the coronation," she said. "Let the ring hear everything first." Rowan's clerk placed the evidence on the council table in order. Marcus's oath memory, Adrian's altered route bearing his royal seal, the intelligence ledger listing payments to the assassins, Evelyn's falsified medical record, Serena's bloodline report, and the letter promising her the Luna throne before Marcus died. The oath mirror awakened. Marcus appeared above the table, bruised and bound. His recorded voice filled the hall. "You could have left me." Serena went pale. Then Adrian's image answered from the memory. "She chose me." Several officers lowered their eyes. Adrian remained standing, but one hand closed around the throne until the carved wood cracked. The next memory showed Owen Cross beside the campaign map. Adrian pressed his seal into the order. "He cannot return with what he knows." A growl moved through Marcus's ranks. Gideon struck his staff against stone and shouted, "Fabrication! Arrest the witnesses!" Royal guards advanced 3 steps. General Hale's soldiers did not. Captain after captain removed his helmet and placed it at his feet. Steel struck marble in a spreading rhythm until half the army stood bareheaded before Evelyn. Caleb Mercer stepped from Adrian's side and drew his sword not against her, but across Gideon's path. "Stand down," Gideon ordered. Caleb's voice was quiet. "Marcus commanded these men. You used his funeral to crown the woman who helped murder him." Serena's breathing turned ragged. She looked at Gideon, then Adrian, and understood neither intended to save her. She tore Adrian's letter from inside her gown and held it above her head. "He knew Evelyn was innocent. He ordered me to press her hand against the map while she slept. Owen transferred the prince. Adrian promised me this ring before Marcus entered the ravine." Adrian descended the dais so quickly Serena stumbled backward. "You begged me to protect you. I begged you to choose me," Serena snapped. "You chose yourself." She threw the letter onto the evidence table. The Luna ring released her finger at last, leaving a black circle of burned flesh. Adrian turned toward Evelyn. The mate voice entered his next word, deep and familiar enough to pull painfully through her damaged bond. "Evelyn." Her wolf lurched toward him. Her unborn child shifted beneath her heartbeat. Rowan remained where he stood, giving her space to answer for herself. "Come back," Adrian said. "I did what was necessary to prevent civil war." Evelyn's fingers closed around the gray wool booty hidden in her pocket. "You did not save a kingdom. You saved the chair beneath you." Rowan's clerk read the charges aloud. "Conspiracy to murder a sworn general, falsification of treason evidence, unlawful rejection of a pregnant Luna, and attempted seizure of a protected heir." With each charge, Adrian's authority seemed to shrink around him. Gideon tried to leave, but Marcus's officers blocked every door. Serena sank into the widow's chair, clutching her burned hand. Adrian looked from the army to Evelyn as though the room had betrayed him, never understanding that loyalty had simply stopped protecting his lies. A neutral elder lifted the Luna ring with tongs and placed it before Evelyn. By law, the title returns to the wrongfully removed mate until judgment. Evelyn stared at the ring that had once defined her home. Then she pushed it across the table toward Adrian. "Now sever what you were too cowardly to release." The Luna ring remained between Evelyn and Adrian, while the neutral elders withdrew to deliberate. No one touched it. Serena sat beneath guard near Marcus's empty chair, a healer wrapping her burned hand. Gideon Voss stood in silver restraints. Caleb remained beside the evidence table, staring at the floor as though every year of silence had finally become visible. Adrian watched Evelyn. The arrogance had left his face. Without it, he looked older than 36. "I can restore your title," he said. "You no longer have one to give." The council returned before he could answer. The presiding elder opened the judgment scroll. Adrian Blackwood was found guilty of breaking his royal oath, conspiring in the murder of General Marcus Hale, falsifying evidence against his Luna, and attempting to seize an unborn heir through unlawful confinement. His crown was removed first. A guard lifted the black iron circlet from his head. The pack felt the loss of his sovereign authority, like pressure leaving the room. Adrian did not resist until the elder ordered him confined at Iron Vale. He looked at Evelyn's stomach. "Let me see the child when it is born." The plea was quiet enough that only those nearest heard it. Evelyn's fingers curled around the gray booty in her pocket. "That will not be my decision alone," she said. "When the child is old enough to understand what you did, the choice will belong to them." His face tightened. "Evelyn, you took every choice from me. You will not take that one from our child." The guards led him away. He looked back once, but Evelyn did not. Serena's sentence came next. Her claim to the Luna title was declared fraudulent. Every property transferred through Adrian's promise returned to the Hale estate. She would be exiled from Mooncrest for 10 years after giving birth. When the council mentioned placing her unborn child under state guardianship, Serena went rigid. "No," Evelyn said. Several elders turned toward her. "The baby committed no crime." Serena stared at the woman whose marriage she had helped destroy. Evelyn continued. "Marcus asked that his child be protected. His officers should appoint guardians from the Hale family, not the council that planned to use the child as a symbol." Elias lowered his head in agreement. Serena's mouth trembled. Gratitude tried to form, but Evelyn stopped it with a glance. "This is for Marcus," she said. "Not for you." The final matter was the mate bond. Adrian was brought back in restraints and made to stand across the oath circle. The Luna ring lay at its center beside the severance parchment. Evelyn pressed her blood to the page. Adrian hesitated. The presiding elder said, "You rejected her before witnesses. You will complete what you began." Adrian cut his palm. Their blood touched the ancient marks. Pain tore through Evelyn's chest, sharper than any rejection spasm before it. Her wolf cried out, reaching once toward the mate it had loved for 7 years. Then the bond broke. No thunder shook the hall. No light split the ceiling. Evelyn simply drew a full breath, without feeling Adrian inside it. The absence hurt. It also belonged to her. 6 months later, apple blossoms covered Stormhold's eastern garden. Evelyn stood beneath the branches with one hand supporting the curve of her stomach. Rowan faced her beside a small stone brazier. The guardian parchment rested between his fingers. "The trial is finished," he said. "Adrian no longer has authority over either of you." He placed the parchment into the flame. Silver letters curled, blackened, and vanished. "The claim is ended," Rowan said. "You may remain here, return to Mooncrest, or build a home beyond both kingdoms. Stormhold will protect that decision." Evelyn watched the last fragment burn. "And if I stay?" His expression softened, but he did not reach for her. "Then I would ask permission to stay beside you." She took his hand first. Their daughter was born during the first spring storm. Rowan, who could silence a war council with one look, stood beside the bed holding the newborn as if she were made of light and glass. "Support her head," Evelyn murmured. "I am supporting it. You are holding her like a diplomatic crisis." The exhausted laugh that escaped her startled them both. Weeks later, Rowan signed the fatherhood oath, only after Evelyn placed the document before him. No crown witnessed it. No council approved it. The child carried Evelyn's chosen name. Rowan carried her through the apple garden each morning, learning every cry, every restless breath, and every small fist that closed around his finger. She carried no Ashford blood, but no one who saw him hold her ever questioned who had chosen to become her father. So, this is where Evelyn's story finally comes to rest. Are you still here with me? She was betrayed by the man who knew her loyalty best. She was blamed for a crime she did not commit, stripped of her title, and pushed out while carrying a child no one else knew about. But she did not beg for the ring back. She did not stay where her dignity had already been traded away. That does not mean she felt no pain. It means she refused to let pain make every decision for her. We cannot control who lies to us, who misunderstands us, or who chooses power over love. What we can control is whether we keep handing them access to the parts of us they have already proven they will misuse. Evelyn did not rebuild her life by becoming colder than the people who hurt her. She rebuilt it by choosing carefully, protecting what mattered, and walking toward the people who gave her respect without demanding ownership. And yes, even kings may need instructions on how to hold a newborn. If Evelyn's choice meant something to you, leave one word in the comments: dignity. And if this story stayed with you, a like, share, or subscription would mean a great deal. Dict logo.